on this episode of Chasing Spring.
At last we've seen a basking shark after all this time.
We were hoping, subject to talking to you, to make a decision about if to come out the 7 hours.
I think we should have a look around this corner, see what it's like out into the Atlantic.
My name is Jeremy Norman. I'm the principal owner of Soho Gym. And before that, I started the world-famous Heaven nightclub.
I'm Derek Frost, and professionally I used to be an interior designer.
I met Derek when he was 25 and I was 29, and we've been together ever since. I heard on the radio someone saying that spring travels up through Britain at the pace of a walking man. And I thought that was an intensely romantic notion.
Every summer, Derek and Jeremy charter Killarney, an 80-foot twin-screw diesel motor yacht. Usually, they cruise the Mediterranean. This journey will be different. They'll start at the very tip of England, which is the Scilly Isles, and from there, they'll go up the Bristol Channel to South Wales. And from South Wales, right around the coast of Wales, across the Irish Sea to Northern Ireland. Then, up the coast of Northern Ireland, right to the very top, to Reitlin Island, and then across to the Mull of Kintyre. They'll then proceed up the Inner Hebrides to Ullapool, taking in all the famous islands, and then from Ullapool to the Outer Hebrides, and from there on to St Kilda. Hopefully, if we make it. Previously.
What we've got at the moment is unstable lows flying through all over the place. So even to go to St Kilda, we need a nice stable high pressure.
That's looking highly unlikely.
I mean, if we said no to it, we said, look, we need to be down there, what would we find?
And what you'd find is you'd have massive seas. What Killarney would do, actually has done an instance before when I've been caught out in those conditions, is she would bury her nose, she would scoop up the water. You'd probably have around about a foot of water running down the deck. Something is not dangerous if nothing goes wrong. It goes on to like a domino effect. That happens, and as a result, that happens, and as a result, that happens.
As the storm raged on, Derek and Jeremy's dream of making it to St Kilda became less and less likely. We rejoined Killarney at Castle Bay on the Isle of Barra, which is located in the Outer Hebrides, Scotland. For days now, the planned voyage to the Isles of St Kilda has been prevented by a North Atlantic storm, but against all odds, the morning dawns bright and clear, the storm having abated overnight. And the morning holds yet another surprise for Killarney's passengers. A basking shark makes its leisurely progress through the bay. Unlike their more aggressive cousins, basking sharks are not predators. They swim, mouth agape, straining tiny plankton through sieves of baleen. Nonetheless, they make an impressive sight.
At last we've seen a basking shark after all this time. But they only do really come into these waters in June, when the water gets warmer. And no one really knows where they go in the winter, but thousands of them come into these waters at this time of year.
With a break in the weather, Derek attempts to reach the warden of St Kilda.
Castle Bay at the moment. We're worried that we're going to lose network, so you won't be able to call us back. And we were hoping, subject to talking to you, to make a decision about if to come out the 7 hours, in the hope that we could take advantage of this mini window in the weather, and maybe get out to you by sort of 5 o'clock and stay for 5 hours and then head right back. Because of what we understand to be a change of weather tomorrow. If there's anyone there who gets this message who could call me straight back, I would really be appreciative.
We've got to go through the sound of...
Oh, anyhow, so
yeah.
We can go to the sound before we need to make a decision
Precisely.
about Mingulay or t'other.
Precisely.
Right.
While waiting to hear back from the warden, they head out to check the conditions for themselves and assess the possibility of a last-minute dash to St Kilda. They sail northwards along the sheltered side of the Outer Hebrides to the Sound of Harris.
24-hour forecast. The wind northwest, force 4 or 5, becoming variable, force 3, sea state moderate, occasionally rough at first. Visibility good.
I think we should have a look around this corner, see what it's like out into the Atlantic. If it looks all right, I think we should go. But I really want to leave again by this evening.
No, that's understood. Fully understood.
Because it's, yeah. If it's calm enough now to make passage.
Let's do it.
They head through the Sound of Harris, past the Isle of Pabay and out into the North Atlantic. They are completely surprised by the calm waters, which have, for days now, raged impassable. As the Hebrides fall away behind them, the swell increases, but it's nothing that Killarney can't handle.
The weather, rain or showers, and the visibility moderate or good.
Let's do it.
That means it's all right.
Yeah,
isn't it?
let's go.
That's an okay forecast.
Yeah, that's fine.
You
No,
won't
I
get
agree.
better.
No, I know, that's fine.
You're 100% in command, as you know.
Yeah.
You're 100%
Yeah,
in
this is fine.
command.
I'm happy with that.
And we can listen to the forecast every 3
Yeah,
hours.
I'm happy with that.
Update and if anything changes.
Yeah.
Then,
Well, I say when we get in there,
yeah.
if it hopefully it'll stay northwest for it's going northeast later, so that'll be after 12 hours, which is great. So we'll get in there, we'll be able to be in Village Bay, maybe for 2-3 hours. I
Do
really
we have a
don't.
charter to kill them?
No, we don't.
It's one of the greatest galaxies in the world, and it's one of the greatest places for cliff nesting seabirds you will ever see anywhere in the world. And to see it and to experience it will be something that will stay with you for the rest of your lives, guys. This is not just climbing up some boring mountain. This is an achievement to get out in these seas to this tiny little island. It's making Tim quite nervous.
It is.
And he's the captain of this boat.
But it's my job to be on edge.
Exactly.
With the decision made, the crew spring into action. All must be made ship-shape for what could still be a treacherous and difficult passage. They are all aware that the weather in this part of the world is capable of a rapid and dramatic change, and Killarney soon finds herself in the midst of a substantial Atlantic swell. The 5-hour voyage will take them into an area that was completely engulfed by a storm just a few hours before. Then, finally, on the horizon, through a thin mist, the Isles of St Kilda appear like phantoms in the distance.
You think about a stack, how high it is, or how sheer out of the water. If we're still, 5 miles away from it, 4 or 5 foot stack, how big it's going to be when we're up close to it.
The St Kilda group of islands, Herta, Soay, Borroray and Dun, along with the 3 stacks, Anarmin, Lee and Levenish, are extremely tall. They rise sheer out of the ocean to heights exceeding 400 metres. The islands can be seen from a distance of 60 kilometres on a clear day and are believed to be the top of a caldera or rim of a long extinct volcano. They are now a UNESCO World Heritage Site for their culture and for their ecosystem, history and wildlife.
Didn't seem like it was going to happen yesterday. Sure did. I suspect with the weather forecast that this would be literally our only day within our deadline. Damn it. I think that's right.
They drop anchor in Village Bay at the Isle of Herta, and Derek and Jeremy waste no time getting the rib launched. Before landing on Herta, they are keen to visit the stacks, which are home to tens of thousands of seabirds.
This is quite a sight. The great skuas are attacking the gannets to try and get them to release their food.
Skuas are pirates by trade. These enormous birds rely on the superior fishing ability of the gannets and ambush them for an easy meal when they return from the ocean. Stack Anarmin and Stack Lee are gannetries on an unimaginable scale. Together with the gannets nesting on Borroray, they are home to about 40% of the world's breeding population of the species.
Masses of them all the way up that cliff face.
Stack Anarmin is the highest sea stack in the British Isles, and Herta has the highest sea cliff with Conachair.
It's like a halo, permanent halo of birds we've got going around us.
Shall we go and check out that colony low down?
Unused to being disturbed, the birds decide to fire off a couple of warning shots.
Fulmars have just attacked us and spat that fetid oil at us. I'm trying to get my hood up, but I can't.
There you go. Yeah, tighten it up if you want.
Potentially hazardous situation.
To avoid distressing the flock further, they take their leave. As always, when manoeuvring amongst rocky outcrops such as these, strange and treacherous currents are a threat to safety. Now, out of radio range, a misstep could be deadly.
There's little birds actually, not starlings, but they're puffins, circling around up there.
As they head back towards Herta, they pass rafts of puffins bobbing along on the surface. Rarely seen on their journey, here, at least, these colourful little birds seem still plentiful. Archaeological evidence suggests that St Kilda has been inhabited for at least 2 millennia. However, the population never exceeded a couple of hundred. By most accounts, they were a happy and peace-loving people who lived in almost complete isolation.
The beehive structures are thatched dry stone wall structures called cleat, C-L-E-I-T, or in Gaelic the plural is cleitian. And they were used by the St Kilda residents for storage, principally of the seabirds that they had killed and salted for winter food.
The Soay sheep are a form of Neolithic sheep that occur nowhere else in the world. They are the direct descendants of sheep brought along by man as he migrated across Europe from the Middle East. Also found on the islands, and genetically distinct, are the St Kilda wren and the St Kilda mouse. The hardy natives of these islands lived lives of extraordinary simplicity and great privation. Largely untouched by the outside world until the modern era, their culture remained virtually unchanged.
Isn't it fantastic? Huh? It's so prehistoric looking, isn't it? But I mean, look at the size stones they've used to create it.
A limited number of vegetables were grown, but the poor soil and unpredictable weather meant a life of meagre subsistence. Though happy in their solitude, a rapidly industrializing world began increasingly to intrude on their simple ways. The increased contact brought disease and religion, and the unique connection between the people and their way of life was broken.
Have you noticed the primitive drainage structure? There's a drainage ditch covered with stones.
When resident Mary Gillies died of appendicitis in January of 1930, it was the final straw, and the remaining 36 inhabitants were relocated, at their own request, to Morven on the Scottish mainland. For Derek and Jeremy, the time spent here is the fulfillment of a dream, a very special achievement. And this ancient, sun-dappled village speaks to the very heart of the journey. They take a moment to reflect on the long weeks and the many miles that have brought them to this extraordinary place.
Here we are. Journey's End.
Just the next bit of the journey. With the sun getting lower in the sky, the time comes to head back to Killarney. But there's just time for one last moment for all to reflect on the accomplishment of having persevered in their journey all the way to St Kilda.
Being on St Kilda with its unspoilt natural beauty made me reflect on the damage we're doing to our planet. Throughout our 2-month voyage, we've glimpsed some disturbing changes to nature's enduring rhythm. Flowers blooming early, dwindling fish stocks, ivy choking trees, the loss of the English elm, and a bloom of jellyfish smothering 250,000 salmon.
Hopefully, sharing our experience will encourage more people to value this treasured heritage of nature and the sea.